Yeah, it's being recorded right now, right? Okay. My name is Sarah Mitial, and I am excited to be here with you guys today. We have a full pack, an event full for you guys today. It is about performance management. Performance management is something that is near and dear to anyone who is managing people, anyone who is within an organization and have a team. We want to make sure that we are providing our people with what they need, the feedback that they have. And today, Dr. Wendy Richard and I are going to have a conversation to help you, to just give you some ideas and to hear what you are doing in your organization and see how we can, as a from a common ground perspective, understand how we can help each other. A little bit about my organization, People Architectural Group, is a human resources retention firm. We help small to mid-sized businesses with services such as talent acquisition, payroll, talent development, HR consulting, and fractional HR services. If any of these things, if you'd like to know more about us, we would love to connect with you to learn more about you and to tell you more about who we are. Performance management, again, as I mentioned, Dr. Wendy Richard is going to be we're going to have this conversation today. He's going to help me lead this conversation today. A little bit about Dr. Richard is that he is a distinguished leader and speaker, celebrated for his focus on creative growth, formerly an award-winning journalist. He leveraged his investigative skill, research expertise, and leadership experience from Walt Disney Company to guide managers and leaders across numerous organizations. Dr. Richard, one of the main things that I think he is a brilliant and innovative approach. He takes an innovative approach to help his client. He drives success and inspire growth in sectors such as hospitality, tourism, entertainment, healthcare, and nonprofit. Another thing that I think it is well noted is that he recently launched his own business, and I think this is something that definitely we want to hear a little bit about. Dr. Richard, before we even get started, would love to hear how that venture is going and give us a little spiel, just a minute or so about BrainrichX and what you have in store.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Hi, Sarah. Thank you all for joining. I'm absolutely excited to join you and share a little bit about my work and my organization. Essentially, it's a story, I would say, of resilience and love because it comes from my personal experience. Originally, I was a news reporter in Haiti. Then fast forward, because of the nature of my work, got to flee the country to come to the US, was fortunate to join the Walt Disney Company, got a great job there, performed well. And then before I know it, I got promoted. I got super excited. Now I'm a manager. I'm going to change the world. Well, it didn't quite go that way. So I stumbled a little bit, just trying to figure things around what management was about, what leadership was about in such an organization. So fast forward, I became quite obsessed about that thing, about leadership, how it works in an organization. That pushes me to lean on mentors, to figure things out, go back to school, study, and figure things out. So it's all those experiences that I package together because I know how bad I stumble. And I feel like no one should have to go through what I did. So now I put all these together to help organizations. That's one point. Second and last, in conversations that I've been having with executives and different business leaders when I was at Disney, and even after I left Disney, I keep hearing one thing. People show up, that's half of the battle, but really the organizations are not necessarily moving forward. That's why today I focus on the work getting beyond busy so organizations can really thrive and do what they're best at. In a nutshell, I work primarily with restaurants and hotels. And again, this is the kind of work I do with them. Just get beyond busy. I'm sure you want to hear more about that. That's for another time.
Well, thank you so much. As we are getting started, definitely we are looking forward to hear your perspective. But as we are kind of getting into the conversation, I would love for our audience and people to share what you think when you hear of performance management, what comes to mind? When you think of performance management, what is the one thing that pops in your head as you think about performance management? Dr. Richard, this is we are ending third quarter, getting into fourth quarter. So performance management is something that is in everybody's mind, right? They start
Yes.
thinking about what the goals we set at the beginning of the year, where are we? And as people are maybe thinking about what to write, what comes to mind as what kind of advice, just to start off, would you tell people that, my goodness, it's September, we need to start making that plan, the plan we made in January. If we have not done anything about it, is it too late to even start thinking about those plans?
Thank you, Sarah. By the way, great questions, and I can't wait to see how the audience respond, or each one of you respond to the questions. I really want to hear from you. I hate showing up to a conversation and it's all me, as if like I have all the wisdom. So of course, I'm sure you have your own experience. Certainly want to hear from you. But to answer your question directly, Sarah, some of the things to think about. So for me, as a consultant, whenever I get asked a question or face an issue, I'm always thinking about the client's experience and start from there. So I'm going to do the same thing. I think typically when you talk to people about performance reviews, specifically as we're reaching the end of the fiscal year, the first thing is that people get nervous. Oh my gosh, I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to start. What am I going to write, etc. So I would offer you a word of encouragement. Calm down. It's not that bad. Clearly, every day you've been showing up. You've been doing things. I have a sense of certainty. If you still have your job, it can't be that bad. If you weren't performing at all, you would have been let go. So there are two ways you can go about this to calm your nerves a little bit. Just don't think too much about it. Take a step back without any kind of formality. Think about the things that you've done that give you the most pride. And sometimes I know that can be hard for us as humble people in HR. It's like, I don't know. The other aspect, maybe think about some of the recurring comments you've been getting from your clients. What do they say about your service? What kind of things that get them excited? And if you can't think on your own to remember those, ask them questions. Go around. Obviously you don't want to go like, hey, i'm gonna do my performance review. I have no idea what to put on it. How about you tell me? You're smart enough. I know that wouldn't be your approach, but have candid conversation with them. Check on them to see how they feel about your service, and you'll be surprised. Talk to your boss, who's watching you closer than anyone else. Then you'll be surprised, like the stuff you'll start pulling out of them. So that's where I would start.
Absolutely. I think when I think about performance management, growth and development comes to mind. Sometimes I hear people say they become stressed and anxious, right? Or is it just something that we are trying to do from an HR perspective? Is that the same thing that you feel or you think?
So it's gonna vary depending on the organizations. But since today I know we want to talk a little bit beyond the performance review, just talk about performance management in general. So I know the first question was to just help people think a little bit about the performance review. Now let's dive in and talk a little bit more about performance management. So
Absolutely.
performance management overall is tricky because it's one of those things that a lot of us get passionate about, and it feels right, right? If you want to know what people are doing, you're tracking, you're measuring, it seems like common sense business sense
Mhm.
until it's not, because it's not working. And this is not my opinion. If you've been reading some of the literature out there about HR, and I'm not talking about any fancy scientific research, just industry report. For example, just this year, there's two of them that get my attention. It's a report by Gallup that talk about only 2% of CHROs, you all know what CHROs are, head of HR, just feel like performance management is not working. Let's pause in this conversation for a second. 98% of those leaders who are in charge of that process have thought about it, saying it's not working. I don't
Wow.
think we need any additional conversation to just go like, you know what? No, this thing's not working. And then it go beyond HR. There's a separate report by Deloitte that's called Global Human Capital Trends. I have to close my eyes for a second to remember it. This year as well, the report came out, and now it's not just talking about HR, it's managers in the field. Say 61% of them don't have much trust in the process, and 72% of overall employees, think about those numbers, they're high. So the system is broken. It's really not working. So therefore, Sarah, going back to your question about stress, anxiety, etc., you can understand where that comes from. When you're being part of a process that you feel like is not fair or it's not effective, you don't feel like it's doing much for you. It's sort of like, hey, they tell me to do this thing, sure, whatever. Well, I have a million other things going on. So it's far from being perfect.
Absolutely. Now, why do you, if you think that if a manager think it's not effective and they feel like maybe some people might feel like it's a checkbox exercise in many organizations, what can they do about that? Why do you think they think that way, that it's not effective?
Um, I think for a couple of reasons, even though people may not be expert in HR, but common sense, like when someone's helping you, you can feel it. So the first thing that come to mind for me is the ritual around performance review itself, and then we'll talk back about performance management. So when it comes to performance review, what do we most see? You show up at the beginning of the year, sometime, somewhere around the beginning of the fiscal year, and your leaders get on your case. Eventually, you plug in your goal, okay? And then
Mhm.
a lot of times that conversation stops until the end of the year again. Someone show up, hey, it's time to do this review. And you're like, oh, shoot. What did I pick again at the beginning of the year? What was it? So, of course, something like that, someone's going to realize it's just a process they're doing. So, that's one. Now, if we jump from performance review and talking about performance management in general, in many places, it's not a well organized system where you feel like the conversations add up. Even
Mhm.
people who may show up more often to do a one on one, have conversations. And I hate to bring things about managers as if they're bad. No, that's not my intent. I look at managers seriously as heroes
Yeah.
because they get thrown into a new job a lot of times, not trained well. There's a million things that are coming at them and they need to deal with all of it. But anyway, point I was going to make, oftentimes, unfortunately, our leaders, even HR, show up to give you feedback. And typically, feedback means there's something you do wrong. I need to talk to you about it. Even me, I cut myself telling people, hey, I have some feedback for you, when that means literally there's something I need you to do better. And I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Feedback should not be associated just with negative things. So again, you look at the side of performance review, you look at performance management. clearly, based on this conversation, you can see why people are not excited about it, because it doesn't feel organized. It doesn't feel to any sort of result. It doesn't feel like where people have, and it doesn't feel collaborative. It feels like your leader comes in to tell you what's wrong, right, what's right, keep doing your job, or you suck at it, do better. So there's a lot of things we can change about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I think about performance management and all of this, I think there's definitely understanding where we stand, how we can continue to talk about these information. What do you think what are some unintentional circumstances do you think with outdating performance system? What risks do leaders run in if they don't adapt to new ways?
Um, they definitely need to adapt. I don't think it's something we can resist anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because think about it this way. The way things are working currently, when you maintain the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like we're forcing people to work against the way they're built, the way they're wired.
I
And
see.
that's a soft way for me to talk about brain science, neuroscience, without, using big fancy terms. But if, for example, you would observe a child, you'll see that how they thrive through growth. They always want to learn something different. You look at the developmental stages of a baby. Yes, you're going to guide them, but you don't come at them and say, hey, today's Tuesday, blah, blah, blah. We start a new year. We're going to start this new process to show you how to walk. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work like that. It feels like it's just natural, because our brain, our system is wired for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we show up, just telling people what to do, something that's not cohesive, it's sort of like we push them against the way they're wired. So it just become a mess. It doesn't work. And I know in the previous question you asked me what can be different. I was trying to be short, not talking too much, because I'm certainly a talker. I am a speaker. What do you expect? But if I can go back just for a moment about what can be done, before I jump to that, I think I just want to take a brief minute to really get your attention on what's not working, and then we can start talking a little bit about the solution. The way I picture it, and maybe that's the former news reporter in me, I feel like there's a Cold War situation going on in our workspace,
Mm-hmm.
where businesses have their expectations, and that makes sense, right? Primarily, it's the bottom line. We want to satisfy clients, but bottom line, bottom line, bottom line, how much money we're making. And then for employees, we're going to do a couple of things. We give them some good perks, 401k, etc. And then our people are on the other end demanding other things. They have different needs, and then we don't meet in between. For example, if you look at some of the most recent report in the last 10 years, employees are not asking for the same kind of benefits they used to. They're demanding different things. And I know right now it's possible you're wondering, how does it jump from performance management talking about benefits? I'm going to come back to performance management, but I'm trying to show you from a systemic standpoint how we just keep driving apart. And then
Mm-hmm.
we're like, I don't understand why we're not together, why we're not doing this thing, why we're not moving things forward. Well, if I feel like you have my interest, you feel like I have your interest, it becomes a little bit easier. But
Absolutely.
if I have that sense, oh my gosh, these people don't care about me, whether I'm right or wrong, whether it's just perception, it's just my assumption. No, I'm not willing that much to do much and to go along with the thing you're doing. That's already not working. So that Cold War situation we talk about, now let's come back to performance management, which is the question, how do we go about it? I
Mm-hmm.
believe both of us, HR professionals and business leaders, need to approach this question a little bit more seriously and be willing to drop the status quo. I know there has been a lot of talk out there. Let's make our organizations human-centered, etc. And there's no magic bullets we can use, just make it happen. But I know you didn't join this conversation just to hear from Dr. Richard. He's so smart and this and that. You're looking for practical steps when you go back to your place. So let's start there. Here's what I do. I try to work with both sides and see how I can bring them into the middle. What does that mean? Businesses, companies are going to have their own expectations. You can't ask a company to just drop the whole bottom line thing. Then you don't understand how business works. So what do? I work very closely with leaders to figure out what matters to them, what matters when it comes to that bottom line we're talking about. Help them get a clear sense of what they want from people, how they want to achieve it, so I can start building that performance management thing we're talking about, whether it's a review itself or a general approach for performance management throughout the year so we can move forward. By the way, my proposition would be now to talk about growth empowerment instead. Because even the term performance management, people hear it, it's like clearly you're telling me you got to manage me like a thing, like an object. I don't think it resonates. Now, I don't want to pick a fight over just a word or an expression, but words matter. That's why, for example, depending on who that person is, they show up, they say they love you, and your heart is melted. Words have effect. So I would start there. The whole term performance management, I have an issue with it. The approach, we got to work with both sides. So working with leaders where you're trying to figure out clarity, but bring people into the conversation if we want to make things differently. For example, if you're working in an organization where you don't have much resource, here's a simple thing you can do. How about you try to do just one survey annually? Not asking for more. You can do more, great. Just one survey, but craft it in a way where you really give people voice, and then we'll talk about what you're going to do about it, because just doing the survey and walk away, that's not going to do it. But a couple of things. We talk on the other side about working with leadership on clarity to identify blind spots that they may have, that the organization may have. Make sure that your survey tap also on clarity from the employee side to understand, are they getting that sense of clarity? Are they getting clear about the blind spots? I'll give you a small, quick example. My organization, I know I'm not a major organization, etc. But if you ask me easily, there's at least I can tell you in terms of what we want to achieve, but something easy, relatable for this month. Want to make sure that I hit my revenue of $5,000. I don't know if anyone work for me, they can get confused about that. Now the how, we're gonna need to talk about it and figure it out, but that's the kind of work I do with them. And how do I bring them in the middle, both of them, which is the most important point we're making here. Now the survey you do, which is not just built on clarity, I'm missing some elements here because we're moving the conversation, but another thing that's essential in the survey is give people voices about what kind of experience they want. What should employee experience look like when it comes to perks? What get them excited? If you look at most recent survey a moment ago, I was going to talk about it. You'll find that, for example, that work flexibility, that's what people are demanding. Some people even want 4 days work. I'm not saying just give it to them. I'm just saying that's what people are demanding. We're just talking about 401k and traditional perks. Whereas now people are showing up like, what about my dog? I need insurance for my dog. What about my kid? I mean, I want to do your work, but I don't have anyone to watch my kids. If it was just two people, like, you ignore them. But when things are changing like that, the workforce is becoming so different, you can't ignore all that. But you may have limitations. You can't jump in and do everything, please people. What I'm saying, you engage people. You show them your heart, that you're trying. You give what you can. You meet them in the middle, and then things start changing about performance. But what I know also you're waiting from me, Sarah, about performance management throughout the year. You can drive it at the beginning of the year, and then you come back at the end of the year. It's like, where have you been? Try to create systems where people are having conversations throughout the year and they stay focused. I'll give you two quick ones. Organizations I work with, that whole concept that you may know about QBR, quarterly business review, I change it a little bit. So it's not just like, oh, you're going to show up and you're just going to talk about your numbers, your sales, and this and that. Number one, I try to change it, not business, it turn people off. Let's call it, for example, progress and potential discussion. Who's going to be mad when we're talking about progress? You don't feel attacked, right? When we're talking about potential, we're talking about growing people. So that's one, even in the term. And then I put simple questions. Whoever's going to take the floor sharing something, there's a couple of things they have to do. Three simple questions. What is the initiative you're reporting on? Very focused. What does that initiative have to do with the overall goal we set for the year so you can stay focused? And what's the status? So we know where you're at. It's not just a conversation. You come, you show up, you blah, 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 and it gets nowhere. I say I was going to share two things. That's one. Another one for the conversations to continue is one-on-one. In many in many of our organizations, excuse me, it's not even happening. If it happens, lack of structure. What do? I help leaders on one end provide training so they know how to do it, but you know that already. Training's not going to solve for everything because they're busy, etc. But excuse me, set it up in a way, whether it's a system where you're documenting what happened in the conversations or where we're touching base with the employee as well, the direct report to get feedback, to know how things are going. But bottom line, just creating places for them to have conversation so they know growth is a thing. We need to keep at it. One more thing I'll ask before we jump to the next question, going back to the whole idea of having quarterly discussion, trying to create spaces where it's not always dominated by the leader always showing up. That's because people want to get involved. They have different ideas, etc. I can share more about that if you want me to, but I want to try to be concise.
Absolutely. It sounds like, to begin with, what you're recommending is that finding that common language for the organization, something that for performance management to work, we need to basically diagnose it and figure out what's working, what's not working. And so, and then for everybody to be on the same page of what review or what the reviewing of the performance looks like. Would I be, before we move on, I would just want to make sure that I summarize it correctly.
You get the first part correctly, and then the second part, I don't think on my part I articulated it well enough. The whole idea of bringing people into it, I think we need to change mindset to decide how we're gonna show people our heart, because that's when people show up. Sarah, you're a mom, you know that. You yelling at your kid to do the dishes and all that, they look at you, they roll their eyes. If they do the dishes, you come back, they're not clean, etc. But when they feel loved, when they know they're gonna get something that really get, that big smile, you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on today? The house is clean, everything is done. And by all means, I'm not suggesting treating employees like kids, but I think that example resonates with all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what it looks like to explore alternatives. So if we agree that the current setup is far from perfect, what does a better version looks like? What would you say?
I think it goes back to the point you were recapping. Like, first, sort of like assess your organization, know where you're at. And I know that big word assessment can be a mess, especially if you're working in an NGO, which I have experience with as well. Really, what I'm asking is pause for a second, look around, have a sense of what's going on. I'm not asking for any formal process if you don't have the means to do it. I think the biggest mistake and the biggest injustice we, HR professionals, and even business leaders can do to our organizations today is just putting our head down do the traditional thing we always do as if like that's gonna change the world. And I promise you, I'm not trying to promote my business here about beyond busy, but really that's what a lot of us do. That's what a lot of organizations do, and it doesn't drive results. So you got to figure out where you at, what's happening, then you go from there. Second thing, let's be unusual in what we do. When we say let's show our heart, if we keep the status quo, it's not going to continue. How can you be unusual? When we say we're going to do some work with the leaders, I would highly encourage you as HR professionals, please try what I'm going to tell you next. Get to understand the business you're supporting, because we struggle a lot. Let's be honest, I have those struggles as well. You want the leaders to do this thing, the training you want them to complete, the performance review they want to complete, and you feel like it's a fight. It never stops. What if we could turn this around, so the aspect, the business you want to do, it becomes part of their business? It's not something they're doing for HR anymore. If, for example, I have a leader who keep losing their direct reports, and I have some reports that can show that. If I'm busy, I don't have structure, I don't have report, but I can literally just write down the few names. Like for the last 3 months, you lose 5 people, and use that as a point to connect with them. And I'm showing up how I want to help them turn this around. And it has to do with how they're going to structure their one-on-one, those quarterly discussions we're having about performance. If they can see it's going to make them sleep better, I promise you, they're going to do it, because they're not doing it for you anymore. So we need to get to that level, being unusual, just not being different, not good enough, just being unusual. Show people a heart. Like, if I could ask you a question, any one of you on this chat right now, can you tell me something that really make people who work in your organization fall in love with your organization or fall in love with HR? If you can quickly tell me one thing, there's a problem. And don't feel bad. We got to start at a place. But you can't just show up talking about process, we do this thing, etc. Tell me, how do you show your heart, and how do you bring their heart into the work they do? Because absolutely, yes, people can fall in love with their organizations. It's possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think this is something that I think managers, when we think about leadership development, is very important, because if we develop our leaders, those who lead others, and we show them our heart as higher level leadership, it's going to cascade down to the employee level as well. So when you're thinking about performance management, is as a leader, I need to model it for my managers, who's going to continue to model it with the people that they are that are under their leadership. So absolutely, heart, you cannot go away from heart when you're working with people, no matter what you do. So let's keep moving on. What do you think, how do you build the habit of showing heart, giving feedback, clarity, and sticking beyond the rollout phase?
I've worked in many organizations where people talk about flavor of the week. I'm sure you may be more familiar with flavor of the month. At least it lasts a month. And in some teams, it feels like it doesn't even last a month. So it's sort of like a joking way to say, oh, don't worry about this thing. It's going to go away in the blink of an eye. So I would challenge you, whether you're a business, you're a leader in this conversation, or you're an HR person, or anything else you do, just be cautious about flavor of the month or of the week or even the day, because what it does, it damages you. It damages your brand. People don't take you seriously anymore. They know you're just gonna show up and do this thing. Like, I'll tell you, given my background, oftentimes I'll watch people who are brand new to an organization, and it happens mostly with them because, when you're new, you get overexcited. You want to prove yourself. You want to prove your worth, and they throw things. They come up with things. And I watch employees as well, like watching them on the sideline, like, oh, yeah, I know she's new, don't worry about it. And effectively, that's how it goes. So resist that temptation. If you're gonna do something, try to think deeply about it, test it out, bring people on board, get people involved, and have consistency. Because what was the key word in your question? Habits. Habit is something repetitive. It continues. You know it's coming. It may be surprising at times because it take a different twist, but you know. I'll tell you something almost ridiculous that I've experienced with a leader. Ridiculously good, I should say. And it's been years. It's still in my mind. I've joined the Walt Disney Company about more than 20 years ago, and I was working in the park outside. It's Florida, it's hot, you know about the weather. And I have that team leader, not my direct manager, the manager above, every time she walked the park. Every time she came by me consistently, she always asked me, do I need a bathroom break? So she would take over my operation for me because I'm dealing with money. I can't just turn my tail and leave the money behind. That would be a huge problem just for her to take over for me to allow me to take a bathroom break. Now, here's the thing, most of the time it was a no, but I still remember it. My heart still melted. Why do I bring that into performance management? You cannot isolate it. Why do you think I'm gonna give it 100% for that leader? Because of that small thing. So that's why earlier on I was saying be unusual. Whatever you're gonna bring up, try to be consistent and then stay on it so the habits can really stick. But let's remember, I want to highlight this again. You got to work with both sides because what we have going on in our organizations is complex. There's no easy solution. But that whole thing I talk about, what's the term I use again? The Cold War, it's a real thing. It's not going to go away. And we have a role to play. I'll give you a quick example to show you how bad it is. Even experts in our industry have a lot of things that show they don't clearly understand what's happening. And then they influence us. We continue to repeat these languages. Tell me you're not familiar with these terms. Quiet quitting. If you think about it for a second, do you feel like there's some kind of blame into it? Yeah. And if employees are not behaving properly, sure, we should blame them. But how are we having the conversation? We put it on one side and then we say we represent everyone, we're trying to bring everyone together. No, I don't think so. When we talk about disengagement, a term that I know that's very popular, experts use it. There's multiple reports by Gallup about it. So if Gallup says it, we're all going to repeat it. When you follow the term, what does it imply? Not much responsibility on our leadership part, on our employers' part, on the organization side of things. It may sound like a small thing, but you need to get that detail, that focus to understand, how do I show up in between these two groups? How do I bring people together? How do I bring the two sides so I can get things going so people don't feel like, hey, they're just yelling at me, they're just forcing me, they're just demanding and demanding and demanding and demanding. But it becomes really a collaborative space because I will tell you the work I do, what gives the most pride personally is because I'm always challenging people to redefine what's possible. I'll be honest with you, there are times they find me annoying, and they're right. And then they love the result. You don't have to be as annoying as me, but don't embrace the status quo. Don't accept it. I'm gonna jump in something that may make you cringe now. And yes, I welcome it. I'm a former news reporter. I have no problem having conversation that makes you feel uncomfortable, so long you're gonna become comfortable. DI, ooh, did I mention this? It's okay. It's a new, different climate. We don't need to jump into, oh my gosh, who's right? Should we use it? Should I? That's fine. But do you think like the best thing to do is that we shy away, like, oh my gosh, let's not talk about anything inclusion. Let's not talk about diversity. No, we're not in that kind of business. We need to have different approach. We're working with people. What is the thing we're really trying to do? make people feel they belong, make people feel they're wanted, make people feel like this is their beloved place. Therefore, they show up with heart. They want to do a million things for your clients, take care of each other because they feel loved, they feel belong. Find a way to make it happen. Be unusual, be different, stick to it, make sure that it's not a flavor of the day.
Yeah. So what are the roles of a leader in all that we are talking to right now?
Sarah, I love that with you. You always ask the most brilliant questions. This is a great question to ask. Certainly, leaders have a role to play because people are always watching you when you're in a leadership position.
Mhm.
Your gesture, how you move, how you're supportive. So definitely, leaders have a role to play in being supportive of these initiatives, in being collaborative, participating in these conversations to see how we can change things. Because as we're discussing this, I think it has become clear this is not an HR process, it's an organization process. Really, what we're discussing is how do we bring everyone together
Mhm.
to show love for what they do, to show love to those they do it for. That's really what we're talking about. So we need everyone. Leaders got to be supportive. And then there's a big but. Oftentimes, when we think about leadership, we think about that person who must show up and take over. If I'm a leader, I enter the room, someone must hear my voice. Not always.
Mm-mm.
Let's give space to others. That's what people are looking for. In this experience economy, people don't want to be treated as objects anymore. They want to be part of something bigger. You may hear that term out there a lot, fandom, Fandom. Because I have an accent, I spell it so I don't get you lost. We should be in the business of creating fans in our organization, turning our employees to fans. They love us. They love this place. They want to show up every day. Our clients, our customers, they love this place. How do you think it's going to happen? If you just focus on process, that performance review thing, it's not going to work. You need to show heart for people. And then I'm going to come back to your question, which I forget because maybe I'm talking too much. But quickly, when I'm saying show heart, be different, do things for people, I remember two things quickly that come to mind as I'm talking to you when I work at Disney that really help creating that love. And I'm just using them as two examples. Doesn't mean every organization need to do the same thing. But one of the thing is anticipating people's needs. It's as simple as I'm working that desk, a guest would approach me and ask to borrow a pen. And if I'm good enough at my job, I must know if they ask for a pen, they need to write something, and I offer a sticky note. I get ahead of what they ask for. So, can we do that with our employees? Certainly. There are things that are coming up. We can anticipate if they ask for this, if they raise this question, how do you think they're going to look at you like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Sarah knows that's what I needed. I can't believe she goes there, right? Another thing they do, and then I'll wrap up to come back to your question, which, by the way, I said I forgot, is they resist saying no. They don't say no to guests, but between you and me, we said no all the time. Whoa, Wendy, you're confusing me. What does that mean now? There's a way to say no. Your little child who cannot go onto Space Mountain because they're not the appropriate height yet, I need to say no in a way that he feels like, oh my gosh, this was the best. What do? We give them alternatives. We turn the conversation around. Do you feel like that's something you can do? Yes, we can. I believe we can. Sarah, can you remind me the question just to make sure I didn't completely avoid it?
What roles leaders play in modeling beyond the performance management?
Absolutely. In a nutshell, it's being supportive, it's showing up, it's being conscious of where you show up, what you show up for. It's about that clarity work that we were talking about. You can't just be showing up to your work and you do stuff just because there's stuff to do. So find the blind spots so you can stay focused on the most important things And when you show up, you kind of like elevate the experience. Quick thing that we all can relate to. You show up to a restaurant and you see a manager running around checking everything. That doesn't do anything for you as someone being in the restaurant. But if you see that person going around, they're helping clearing the table, but at times they're not just lost into doing that work like a regular person, but they can see, oops, right outside, there's something I need to do. Someone can trip on that. Oh, let me check here to see if the food is coming fast enough. You feel like someone have a sense of control. So I would say just balance that sense of control and empowerment, because people are tired of control. They're asking for empowerment, empowerment, empowerment. Balance the two of them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if I'm summarizing what I've heard you said over the last 40 minutes or so, I think, tell me if I did it right. So in the beginning of performance management and performance review are a little bit different, right? They are
Yes.
definitely different. Performance management is like, this is something that's happening throughout the year. Throughout the year. It doesn't just happen one. And the review is sitting down and assessing how the performance been going throughout the year. Also, I hear you say common language. So having a common language, understanding what the performance is, what we are reviewing. And also I heard you talk about structure within the plan throughout the year. I love the maintaining the momentum, and you talked about how we throughout the challenge, making fans and showing up with heart, and all of those things that you were talking about. To me, it's kind of like, this is not just at the review, but again, this is spreading out throughout the year. So people feel loved, they feel like, they are part of something bigger than themselves. Is that a good summary of what I've been hearing?
Definitely, you're right. One thing, as you summarize this, I would add, Sarah, because it's different for every organization. In terms of the cycle, I would
Mhm.
engage with people to see what works. Because for some places, it might be like, hey, the formal performance review, we need to do it twice a year. We need to do
Yeah.
it 3 times. You can't just do it because, oh, that's just the way it is. So that's one thing I would add.
Yeah, that's kind of like working on the structure. What structure works for you and your organization? I just don't, I've heard people, I've gone to organization where they said, you know what, I'm sitting down and with my manager, and they are bringing things that happen, this is December, and they are bringing things that happen in January. So how would you encourage people to spread out, give feedback when it happens? What would you say the importance of that?
I'm gonna say do it in a timely manner.
Mhm.
That's how people appreciate it the most. Give people, specific examples so they understand what was the context, and then do it with a sense of love. Kind of like it's not me as a leader showing up to tell you the last thing you did wrong, but we're having this conversation because I know you. I know you want to grow, and I can see you have opportunities. I want to help you. That's the quickest answer that I can give you, but I think it goes a little bit deeper to really prepare leaders to do that. So definitely, it's the sense of purpose in those check-ins, those one-on-ones that happen frequently.
Mhm.
That sense of purpose and clarity. To me, they go both hand in hand. Just because I'm on purpose doesn't mean I have clarity in terms of the detailed steps that we need to go through, what need to go through. But to some degree, you're talking about growth mindset, which is a whole
Yeah,
different conversation.
absolutely. And I think when you are given constructive feedback on a timely manner, that falls under performance management for me,
It
because
does.
you are helping me to change behaviors that is going to be intertwining in other things that I do, instead of waiting to review it at a specific, whether it's quarterly by, every 2 quarters or once a year, where I have been making mistakes all year long for something that could have been corrected in January, right? So So constructive feedback is definitely has to be part of performance management. And it can also show up in review, because if correction doesn't happen, this is when we didn't even talk about creating a development plan and things like that. So you want to say anything about when you look at the intertwining performance management and performance review and development, what would you say about that?
Oh, how can I be concise about this one? It's a loaded question, but a couple of things. Is definitely when we use the word strategy, I know it can feel a lot like, oh my gosh, strategy. How do I define that? I'm not gonna use that word and maybe stress out some people depending on your level in management. But here's the things I want you to remember. Number one, regardless where you see it in the ladder, like in the organization hierarchy, there's a role you have in the performance management we're talking about. Not just the review where you show up, you put in your information in the form, but in terms of managing performance throughout the year. Even though you report to people, you have no direct report, you have a self-responsibility. Today, we talk a lot about growth. How do I want to grow? What is my thought about growth? Even though it might be just like, I'm lost. I don't know where to go. I don't know what I need to go on, but still having the conversation, having that sense of comfort to tell my leader, hey, really, here's what I have in mind. I can't express it. I don't know where to go from here, etc., and let them guide you. If you're a leader, having that sense that to do it as well. But going back to your question, I think it's all about coordination. When I was talking about strategy. So you don't have that piece. The review thing is one thing, and then you're like, hey, people, did you do your one-on-one, etc.? So find a way so all of them become like I'm looking for my word here. So they become encompassing. That's not the exact word I'm looking for, but it doesn't feel like it's clunky. That's one thing that, like, picture it as if like you were gonna present
It's one
say,
plan. It's a connection.
exactly, almost like a puzzle. There's different pieces, but it becomes part of the puzzle instead of like, well, I told them, I send them emails to do the one-on-ones and I send the email to do the performance review. Really keep it that simple. Have conversations with your leaders to figure out what matters to them. What do they want to achieve? Have conversations with your people or that annual survey to figure out what they need. And now the work in between is to figure out how to bring these two together so all parties, both parties, can feel like they have an equitable piece of the cake or the pie, whatever you prefer. But it can't just focus on I say you do. Let's just talk about accomplishment. It has to come from a growth standpoint.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any last minute words that you want to do to wrap this up?
I'll share one quick word, which is traditional, not my favorite, but it makes sense for those of you thinking very deeply about the next performance review, it's coming, etc. Have a folder, start somewhere, whatever comes to mind, drop it there so you can release the stress. I think that's the last thing I would share with you.
Awesome. Awesome. This was such a great conversation. I would love to be able to hear from others as to, what process works for them. And do you feel like your process is working? And if it's not working, would love to hear what are people doing to enhance their process. And if they want help making it better, I know that Dr. Richard is available to kind of help review the process and talk to individuals. And I know myself, I would love to be able to help as well, no matter what it is, to help you make sure. Bottom line is we want to make sure that we are doing a plan that works for everybody. So I really am thankful to everyone who joined us today. And we want to hear from you. One of the things that we want to say is that after this webinar, we're going to send an email to everyone who registered for who was on the call. We'll send you a survey. Would love to hear from you as to what works, what question, and how we can make these sessions better. Dr. Richard is also providing 5 free coaching for the first 5 to reach out. So even when you watch this playback, feel free to reach out to him. He is on LinkedIn. This is one of his main way of connecting with people. So feel free to find him on LinkedIn. I will also send you his contact information to anyone who want to reach out to him. For ourselves here, we would love to, if you have an employee handbook that you need review, we would love to be able to help you take a look at that. We would give one free session to any for the first 10 people who reach out to us. Anyone who's on this call, you will receive a separate email with your HRCI and SHRM credit. So take a look at that. And on our every month we do webinars. We would love for you to join us on October 15th at 11 o'clock right here on Zoom, where we will be talking about mental health and wellness. And so we look forward to you signing up and joining us. If I am not connected with you, would love to stay in touch. So please reach out to me via email, on my LinkedIn, and Instagram. Would love to connect with everyone who is on this call or who have received this message. Again, my name is Sarah Mitial with People Architectural Group. It was an honor to have this timely conversation, and we want to continue the conversation. So please reach out, and we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. I want to thank you all.
All right. Thank you, everyone.